I had gotten the link to this several weeks ago, and I had wondered if there'd been a new one sent out that I didn't get or something. But we seem to be good.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, hi.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure what was going on, but I was not able to get into the meeting.
Yeah, we were all having.
There was another meeting.
Yeah, I had the exact same problem. I think it's now operational.
Okay. That's great. All right, I'm just going to fix my phone connection and dial in with the computer.
On the computer?
Commissioner Ching, you're really soft.
That should be working.
You else hear me?
Yes, now your volume is better.
I was taken back by your
I see the city attorney and Daniel is here. I think Stephen is here.
That's correct. We're just waiting on, I believe, Paul and a few others to connect, and then we can go ahead and get started.
Chair Cray hasn't joined in yet.
Is Cecil on the phone?
I believe Ryan, Fabia in our IT department is helping coordinate the meeting tonight.
Okay.
Yes, Cecil's not available right now. So.
Okay, that's fine. I was just going to make a suggestion. It would be great if the meeting invitations were sent as calendar invitations for the appropriate meeting.
Okay,
I agree. That sounds like a good idea.
I'll keep that. I'll note that.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Rivlin, your full set is getting more impressive by the passing week.
I'm not quite sure how far it will go. We'll see.
I tried to do that. It just drove me nuts after about 2 months. At the point at which I could actually sculpt it. It was too much beard.
Is that does that beard correspond with the COVID duration?
Essentially, yeah. We returned from Hawaii on a small vacation on March 15th, and I haven't shaved since.
So this time next year, when it's reached your knees, right, we have other problems to worry about.
Hopefully, there'll be a time when it's appropriate. Actually, I was going to get a haircut, but that seems to have been squashed before it could happen.
Yeah, my wife was very upset about that. I think it was a 2-day window to get your haircuts done.
I think we're still waiting for Chair Cray, right?
I just got an email from Paul. So Paul's just sent a message. Just saying he's trying to get it working.
Great. I think Paul's on here now. The director's on the call.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's online yet or on the phone line yet.
I just sent Michael an email.
And Terry Hines isn't here either, Commissioner Hines.
No. Let me send an email.
Commissioner Hines, hello. Hello, Commissioner Colville. Hello, Commissioner Chair Cray.
Yo,
Is that everyone?
I think we're missing Corinne, minute taker.
Ah,
Yeah, I just sent her a text.
there she
Okay.
is.
Just testing audio. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
good
Thank
job,
you.
community director. You rebooted the router.
I can't take the credit for that, but we got to work. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're here. Once Corrine unmutes herself, we can begin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Gotcha. Hi, guys.
Hello.
I had it on mute. I didn't realize.
Well, I guess we're ready to go then, Corinne?
We are.
Okay, well, let's call the July 14th, 2020 meeting of the Campbell Planning Commission to order. The Planning Commission meeting will be conducted via telecommunications and is compliant with provisions of the Brown Act and Executive Order N-29-20 issued by the governor. Corinne, can we have a roll call, please?
Certainly in alphabetical order, Commissioners Buckbinder,
Present.
King,
Yeah.
Colville,
Here.
Hines,
Here.
Rivlin,
Present.
Vice Chair Ostrowski,
Here.
Chair Craig.
Here,
We're all here.
so we're all here. So has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of our last meeting, June 23rd?
Yes.
Yes.
If we can have a motion and a second to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as presented in the packet.
I'll second.
As Commissioner Ostrowski seconded that, and Corinne, can we have a voice vote?
Favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstentions or noes? So that's unanimous. And then Director Camoyan, do we have any communications for the commission or any agenda modifications or postponements?
Chair Cray, I think most of the communications were forwarded to you via email and to the Planning Commission as well. There are no modifications or postponements to the agenda.
Well, very good. Then we'll, this is the point of the meeting where we open it up for any members of the public to address the commission on a matter that's not on the agenda. So I don't know if I see anybody there, but is there anybody here who would like to address the commission on a matter that's not on the agenda? Let's see, we have a Q&A. Let's see what that says. Yes. Mr. Raja Palela, you want to address the commission?
Yeah, hey, I was reading through the minutes for the last meeting. Hello, can you guys hear
Yes.
me?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you. Uh-huh.
Okay, so I was reading through the minutes in the last meeting, and for the comments I made last week in regards to what Commissioner Covell has said, I have objected to the kind of comments he made on the like the intent of the property use. So that's actually against the right of the a property owner on like questioning the intent of like the house use. So I made the comment, but I didn't see it reflect in the captured meeting minutes. I want it to be documented because I want to pursue with the city manager on this, on how can a comment be made about the intentions of a property owner, of a house owner, on what he is going to use the house for. That's purely speculation. So for that purpose, I want it to be recorded, and I didn't see that mentioned in the meeting minutes. So I wanted to bring it to your attention. I'm not sure how to,
Okay,
what's
well,
the process
no.
to correct the meeting minutes.
Thank you. I'm not sure either, because it's the first time we've had a correction to the minutes from a member of the public. So Director Kamoyan or Karine, do you know what we do with that, or?
Well, we don't have a practice of preparing verbatim minutes. What Corinne do is capture the fact that Raja spoke and kind of a more of a general statement, not a verbatim explanation of every word. So that's how we typically capture them. If he wants to make a point with the city manager, the meeting is web streamed, so he is documented, is in the record. It's just he would have to refer the city manager to the very beginning of the meeting, which should be pretty easy to reel up.
Okay, Raj, I hope that addresses your concerns. And I don't know if there's anybody else that wants to address the commission on a matter not on the agenda. If not, we'll close that part of the public hearing, and we'll go to our item 1 on the agenda, which is a public hearing to consider the application of Sean Rindy for a site and architectural review permit, PLN 2019-213, to allow the construction of a new approximately 2,665 square foot, 2-story single-family residence on property located at 1511 Van Dusen Lane. Staff is recommending that this item be deemed categorically exempt under CEQA, and our planner is Naz Healy.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Just going to try to share my screen here. Sorry about that. Okay. I think everyone can see this. I'm not able to get it into slideshow view. Oh, here we go. Okay. Using a laptop I don't use very often. Apologies. Okay, so item 1 is a site and architectural review permit application for a new home at 1511 Van Dusen Lane.
Hey, Naz, can you just click the X to get rid of the pop-up on the lower right?
Yep. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so the project site is zoned R19 and located on Van Dusen Lane, which is near Pollard Road down here at the bottom. And this is Highway 85, and this is within the Santa Tomas area neighborhood plan. The proposal is for an approximately 2,700 square foot, 2-story home, and that results in a lot coverage of 36% and an FAR of 0.44, where the max is 40% lot coverage and 0.45 FAR. The materials include shingle and horizontal siding walls, composition roofing, and stone wainscoting, and these are materials found throughout the Santa Tomas neighborhood. Looking at the nearby existing homes, the proposed home size, height, and second story square footage is well below most of the existing homes along Van Dusen Lane. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a site and architectural review permit. Thanks.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Naz?
Just got a quick one for Naz, if I may, please. Naz, what unprotected trees are being removed?
Let me see if I can pull up the site plan. Okay, off the top of my head, I don't recall. I think there may be a fruit tree. And there was a plan. Maybe when we get to the public hearing portion, the applicant, the architect and the property owners are in the Zoom meeting, so maybe they can
Yeah, sure. It
provide a
didn't
response.
It didn't jump out at me, so maybe there's nothing being removed. We could
I mean, the biggest issue was the 2 oak trees that were on neighboring properties, and those ones are being protected. We obtained an arborist report that the city hired, and they provided some recommendations, and so some changes were made to the plans to ensure that the 2 oak trees would be able to survive with the construction of the new house.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So Oak 52, they raised the trenching and the excavation would damage the roots. So I was assuming the mitigation measures as recommended by the arborist are part of the permit.
Yes, there's a small portion of the house in the rear that is within the drip zone, which is where you want to minimize any digging. But that was very minimal. And then there was some utility lines that were proposed in the drip line, and those were all relocated outside of that area.
Great.
So those recommendations have been incorporated.
Thank you.
Nas, I had a question about.
Yes.
Is the reason this proposed house in square footage is considerably smaller than the other nearby houses because the lot is an oddly shaped small lot?
Yes, I think that had quite a bit to do with it, and it's just a smaller lot than what's around it. It's about 6,000 square feet, and the zoning is R19, which would typically require a property to be 9,000 square feet.
Is this a non-conforming lot?
It is, based on its size.
Okay, that was my question.
Any other questions for Naz?
Yeah, I not necessarily related. This home seems to fit all the current requirements. How did the neighboring house achieve its height, which exceeds any number I am familiar with in Campbell?
Can you go back to slide 4, please?
And I'll give you the number if you needed it, but it was 1451 Van Dusen. I know it's just a little outside of this discussion, but I just noticed it didn't meet any of Stamp's requirements.
Is that the one that appears to be more than 2 stories?
Correct.
I did actually just kind of look into that as trying to understand the neighborhood, and I don't know exactly when it was built or added onto, but I wasn't able to find any records with the old planning files. But I mean, it does appear to have been there for decades.
Okay.
And
all right. I didn't know if you had an easy answer outside of the purview of this item. Thank you. That's enough for now.
Sorry, are the missing items, the dashes, just we don't have that information, or?
It's either a 1-story house or yes, I wasn't able to find that information based on the records that we have.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Any more questions for Naz? If not, I think we had, didn't Sark look at this? I think there's a Sark report on this. So.
Yeah, so we met and looked at the design, and actually felt like the design was very nice and that it meets all of the city's requirements.
Okay.
Has
very
there been any feedback from Stamp on this?
We did receive a letter in support. I believe it's one of the maybe attachment 6 of the report.
That's it, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, at this point, then let's open the public hearing and we'll ask the applicant, I think, wants to speak on this. So please do so.
Hello there. Hi, I'm Derek, and this is my wife, Gabriella. We're the owners of 1511. Thank you for having us here. And yeah, we'll also introduce our architect, Eugene Sakai, who's also on the call. So yeah, just to answer Stuart Ching's question, the plan is to remove no trees on the lot right now. So there shouldn't be any concerns with tree removals. And yeah, Eugene, if you want to say anything.
We usually have one person talk at a time and then the second person. So are you done with the?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay, all right, yeah, so your architect can talk, sure, that's great.
Thanks, everyone. I want to thank especially Naz. I met with her personally 2 or 3 times, I think, before we even started work on the project, and then ongoing throughout. It is a pretty challenging lot in the fact that it is irregular, fairly small for the zoning district. It's got the constraint of these large trees, which we tried to be very careful about not impacting. We originally attempted to fit a single-story design on this lot, but with the parking requirements being what they are and the setbacks, and we couldn't actually really get even a modest 3-bedroom home to work on this particular lot, given all of the constraints. So that's why we ended up with this partial 2-story plan. And it is a little unusual from the rear elevation in that the second floor really turns its back to the rear yard. Normally we do the opposite and we try to open up the second floor to the rear yard, but in this case we have the environmental constraint of the freeway. So really that small second floor kind of looks out to the street, and I think really actually augments, I think it's an improvement over our single-story design and actually looks better on the site. And I think it's a little bit more friendly to the street as well, with those 2 bedrooms facing the street. So yeah, all in all, it's a design we're quite proud of, and we hope you like it as well. I'm here for questions if needed.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. Any questions for the applicant? If not, I know at least one person of the public wanted to speak on this. I think Mr. Raja wanted to talk on this.
Regarding the neighboring house, it's actually 4 floors, not even 2. The house was on market like a couple of years ago, and the owner had all the documents. They built it like really long time ago, and they built it themselves, and they had all the permits and stuff with them when they were putting up the property for sale, because I considered that as one of the property that I wanted to buy. But it was like really 4 floors high, and from the inside it looks like an old castle, and with like a small kid room in the top kind of thing. That's the story. I know one of the commissioners brought up the topic about like what's with the height of that building. So I know about it because I tried to buy that building before. So I thought I'll just make it. And this is a beautiful house.
Yeah, well, thanks, Roger. That's helpful. Anybody else on the public want to address this item? If there's nobody else to speak, then we'll close the public hearing.
I think Nick's got somebody that wants to say something there.
Yeah, well, in a minute, when we have the real people, the real commissioners speaking, we'll bring it back to the commission now, and I don't know who wants to start off our discussion.
I'll kick it off. I used to live in the neighborhood over 5 years ago, and I think it will be a nice improvement over what's there today. And I think they did a nice job to embrace both the highway and the local neighborhood. Architecturally, it seems perfect, and I really appreciate the preservation of the trees, or working with the soil requirements. I read through the arborist report and his recommendations. I know that adds a challenge, but I appreciate the owner and architect just embracing it and making it happen. Sometimes there's resistance, but I see here a concerted effort to make it work. So thank you. And the project looks great. And if it's passed, I hope you enjoy your new home.
I would just echo Commissioner Rivlin's comments. I think he sums it up for me as well.
I had the opportunity to take a bike ride out there the other day and see the lot. It is an oddly shaped one, so I commend the owners and the architect for making the best of a slightly odd situation. From the design, it looks like it would fit very well in the neighborhood. And I would like to thank you for coming to Campbell and wanting to move here.
Yeah, I just want to also confirm Commissioner Bookbinder and the others. I had to drove over to it today. It looks like it will be a very nice addition to that area, and I'll commend the architect and especially the property owners and picking Campbell to move to, and really appreciate you doing that.
I don't see any problems here. Maybe we want a motion. Anybody want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving a site and architectural review permit to allow the construction of a new two-story, approximately 2665 square foot single family residence on 1511 Van Dussel Lane.
We have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Corinne, can we have a vote?
Commissioner Bookbinder?
Aye.
Were you the second?
No, Rivlin.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch. Okay, I apologize. Commissioner Bookbinder?
Aye.
Commissioner Ching?
Aye.
Commissioner Colville?
Aye.
Commissioner Hines?
Aye.
Commissioner Rivlin?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ostrowski?
Aye.
Chair Cray?
Aye.
7-0.
So that motion passes unanimously, and Planning Commission action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days. Congratulations. This item is done. So we'll move to item 2 on our agenda. Public hearing to consider the application of Ajin Grajnik for a modification PLN 2020-46 to a previously approved conditional use permit PLN 2017-337 to allow a motor vehicle sales retail wholesale establishment on property located at 125 East Sunny Oaks Avenue, Suite 100. Staff is recommending that this item be deemed categorically exempt under CEQA, and our planner is Stephen Rose.
Thank you, Chair Cray and members of the Planning Commission. The second item on tonight's agenda, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Well, is for a request to modify a previously approved conditional use permit for a previously approved motor vehicle sales facility. The project site is located within the Sunny Oaks Executive Office Center, which is developed with a 2-story office building. The site is bordered by industrial uses to the east, west, and south, and the San Tomas Expressway to the north. So this actually is probably one of our more straightforward use permits that or even modifications of a use permit for that matter, that we've had lately. Effectively, this is a previously approved permit, and the reason why it's being brought before the commission is because they are looking to relocate from the second floor to the first floor. And in doing so, they're going to be moving into a larger suite that's nearly about double the size of their current. They would continue to operate wholesale and retail motor vehicle sales, and there'd be no changes to the previously approved operational characteristics, which means they wouldn't be changing their hours. They'd still conduct business by appointment only. As a motor vehicle sales facility, they're required by the DMV to have 2 dedicated on-site parking spaces. And because they're just relocating from the second floor to the first floor, there'd be no impact to parking. So when I say there's no impact to parking, what I mean is the site is developed with 56 parking spaces, and although that they are doubling the size of their tenant space, the site exceeds the minimum required number of parking spaces for an office building by 10, which means there's a built-in surplus. So even with the 2 dedicated display parking spaces for the site, the site is more than adequately served with those and with other automotive vehicle sales uses on the site. And again, this is just a modification to relocate from the second floor to the first floor. With that said, and in conclusion, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a motor vehicle, approving a modification to a previously approved conditional use permit to allow for a motor vehicle sales establishment. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions for staff?
I'm sorry, can you clarify why this is being brought before us? Is it that it sounds like it's that the original conditional use permit was very specific, and is it that they're moving from the second floor to the first floor? Is it that the size of their office is expanding?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and add that our conditional use permits, when we grant them, are suite specific. There's a number of reasons why we do that. If a business were to knock down a wall and expand into an adjoining tenant space, there could be additional ramifications of the site or their operational characteristics at large. So they were specifically constrained to their previous suite, the operational characteristics, that floor plan, the site plan, limited them that space. So because of that, they need to go through a modification process. Modifications don't cost as much as the original use permit. It is a discounted price, but they do need to go back to the Planning Commission to reconsider the item and make sure that the project can still be supported.
We're not evaluating it today, but why did they need a conditional use permit in the first place?
So motor vehicle sales facilities are a conditional use in the M1 light industrial zone district. So it's just based on the list. We have a list of permitted uses, like professional offices are permitted. Motor vehicle repair is a conditional use as an example. In this case, it's just sales. So they're not doing any repair. I'm just using that as an example. They just have a split.
Stephen, just on the point we've kind of been hitting around here. So does every modification to a CUP come before the Planning Commission?
It depends. Sometimes there's enough flexibility built into a conditional use permit that it could allow for certain actions to be taken by the community development director. Moving from one suite to another, that's usually seen as a significant change of their operational characteristics, and that almost always necessitates for that item to come back before the Planning Commission unless we were to write in a great deal of flexibility into the entitlement. And that's something that we typically want to review. I mean, in this case, they're doubling the size of their tenant space. In other circumstances, that could result in a parking impact. And so for those reasons, we bring it back to the commission. I mean, this happens to be one of the prototypical examples of when a modification seems like overkill, possibly in some ways, is they are going from a small 120 square foot tenant space to a 300 some odd square foot tenant space on the ground floor. And there are no other changes. Oftentimes, applicants use this as an opportunity to change operational characteristics as well. Like they might add staff or they might add patrons. They can always do that as well as part of these modifications. But in this case, they're just relocating.
Well, yeah, I know it's tricky and better to be safe than sorry, but it does seem like kind of a shame that the staff time and the applicant's time for something that's seems to be, in my opinion, relatively minor matter. But in any case, any more questions for staff? If there's no more questions, then we'll open it up to the public hearing is open. Is the applicant here wishing to address us? Is anybody here wishing to address on this item?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
My name's Shelby. I'm Idene's wife. So he's on his way home. He's missing the meeting, but I wanted to thank Stephen for presenting the conditional use permit modification. You're right. It seemed a little bit overkill just because our business activities are remaining exactly the same. We just would like to move downstairs. There's 2 offices in one. So we're kind of limited on space when families come in, let's say with kids and 120 square feet to do financing paperwork. Everything's going to remain exactly the same. Parking remains the same. We don't park any of the cars there overnight. There's no repairs. Everything's appointment only. And we have a warehouse offsite. So if somebody calls and says, hey, I want to check out this car, then we physically drive it, park it in that DMV approved spot, and then go inside, which is now upstairs, to do the financing or any number crunching. So it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any questions for the applicant? If not, anybody else wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand or something. Seeing or hearing nobody else, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Anybody want to start us off on this one?
I was on the commission when this first came forward, and I don't recall any reason to prevent it from moving forward back then, and seen as such that it is just a number suite change, I'm in support of this item.
This looks extremely straightforward to me. I don't have any concerns.
I want to thank the applicant for staying in Campbell, and congratulations on the success of your business, and may the needing to be able to grow and expand.
Anybody want to make a motion? Nope.
I'd just like to.
So shall I move to adopt a resolution approving a modification PLN 2020-46 to a previously approved conditional use permit PLN 2017-337 to allow a motor vehicle sales brackets retail wholesale establishment.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
And who is that, please?
I'll
Maggie.
defer.
Give a few seconds. And can we have the roll call, please, vote?
I still have who the second is. I couldn't say the person who's speaking.
Oh, it's me, Corinne Maggie.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Commissioners Bookbinder,
Aye.
King,
Aye.
Colville,
Aye.
Hines,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ostrowski,
Aye.
Mayor Cray.
Aye.
7-0.
And so this item passes unanimously, and commission action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days. This item's concluded. So we'll move to item number 3. And this is our continued public hearing from our last meeting to consider the application of Nandini Bhattacharya and Budaheb Basu for a variance, PLN 2019-176, to allow a reduced side yard setback to legalize an unpermitted accessory dwelling unit on property located at 309 Reading Road. Staff is recommending that this item be deemed categorically exempt under SEQA, and our planner is Daniel Fama.
Thank you. Good evening. Let me share my screen here. All right. This is a continued hearing from the meeting of June 23rd. At that meeting, the Planning Commission considered a variance application to legalize a unpermitted ADU. By majority vote of the commission continued the public hearing and directed staff to return to a subsequent meeting with a draft resolution for approval of the variance request. That draft resolution has been included in your packet. However, due to a typographical error, staff did transmit a desk item memo that corrected conclusionary finding number 4 to be consistent with the commission's direction. In addition to the findings, the draft resolution also incorporates some standard conditions of approval as shown here. Because this matter did originate as a code enforcement matter, the conditions of approval do specify certain deadlines for the applicant to actually submit a new application for a building permit or to request that the previous application be reactivated, to obtain the permit, and then also to obtain final clearance and a certificate of occupancy. All told, the applicants have until October 31st to do all the work that is necessary. There is some provision for the director to grant extensions if there is delay due to the city's part. Staff believes that the timing is reasonable, given that this is a code enforcement matter. But if should circumstances arises, certainly staff will be considerate of any matter that may warrant additional extensions. Additionally, condition of approval will clearly prohibit use of the ADU for habitation purposes. That is to say for sleeping purposes until the ADU has been legalized. Additionally, a third condition of approval will specifically prohibit expansion of the ADU consistent with the city's zoning ordinance. As we had discussed at the previous meeting, had the garage been legal in the first place, the conversion would have been allowable and a variance would not have been needed. But in that event, the structure could not be physically expanded, and keeping with that intent, this condition of approval codifies that restriction. And with that, the recommendation from staff is to consider the resolution to approve the variance. Thank you.
Any questions for Daniel?
I'd just like to say thank you for, I had to look through the packet. Thank you for putting all this together. Like it's a lot of research.
Daniel, what are the steps that the owner has to do? Are there any physical steps that they need to do? You know,
I'm not entirely aware what physical steps may need to be done. That will be determined through the building permit process.
so the building permit process it gives them the variance on the setback.
Well, no, the variance on the setback is what the commission is considering now. The building permit process is to ensure that the structure and its use as a living unit conforms with the California State Building Code, so that the electrical work is done safely, that the window is adequately sized for egress purposes, all those basic life safety matters.
Okay, thank you.
Daniel, related to that question, in the past, the applicant had shared, I'm not sure if it's official, but shared that fire had already reviewed the property. I guess that needs to take place again from scratch, or those previous reviews will be, help expedite this?
That's going to be at the discretion of the acting building official. The permit has expired given its age, but given the situation, the building official may be amenable to simply reactivating it, but that will be his decision. If he does not wish to do so, then they will need to apply for a new permit. Given that obviously the plans have not changed at all, it should go back through that process fairly quickly, and there should be no reason that the fire department should reject it if they previously approved it before.
Thank you.
I have a question for Daniel.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Daniel, according to the Campbell Municipal Code, without a certificate of occupancy on the ADU, can a non-conforming and non-permitted ADU or structure be used for habitation purposes?
No.
I'd just like to clarify for the record, and in response to an objection made earlier, that it is entirely in the purview of the Planning Commission to discuss the uses of any building type within the borders of the city of Campbell, especially when a specific property or zoning ordinance is on the agenda. Thank you, Daniel, for your work on this.
Any other questions for Daniel? If not, let's open up the public hearing. I'm not sure if the applicants are here to address the commission again. We did, of course, have this at our last meeting, but anyone is welcome to address the commission on this item.
Hi there, this is Buddhadev Basu. Do you have the permission to speak?
Sure, yes, thank you.
We spoke with the building official, Mr. Bob Lennon, and he has extended the permit by 3 more months. So there was a question about the permit, and we had a few questions on, about the process, which Commissioner Hines mentioned, and it helped to understand this. This is our first time we're going through a process like this, and we were worried about the COVID-19 situation and with the stay at home, whether there will be any issues with meeting those deadlines. So thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the commission on this item? Okay, seeing or hearing no other speakers.
If I could just ask a question of the applicant.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for taking the initiative and going forward with the permit process. And again, thank you for being a resident in Campbell. Do you see the being able to achieve the required steps within the time frame that Daniel's mentioned?
Yeah, this is Nandini Bhattacharya, and I would like to answer this question. That when we purchased this house met all the standards of our main house and the back unit. It looks either, in fact, the wall, the texture, everything matches the main unit. And also
city inspector,
Mr.
Randy Sweet, he came and he visited the unit twice because of the code inspector case. And that time I asked him, and he told that, except that time the setback was not in the question also. He just came to see. So he told that looking at the unit, I do not see any problem. We'll have to get it approved. And then we got the approval and we have submitted it to the City Planning Commission also, that sewer is approved, the electrical is approved, the building permit is approved, and the fire inspection is approved. So only thing was holding up is the Planning Commission, Planning Division, because of this issue. And if this is resolved, we can definitely achieve it in no time.
Very good. Thank you for the thorough review.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll, with that, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. This is the item we had our last meeting, of course. So anybody want to kick it off?
This was, as I recall, a very, very in-depth discussion last time. And as the, I think Commissioner Hines brought up the only concern I had, which was, is the provided timeline plausible? It sounds like it is. So I think I still stand where I did last time. I think we should grant the variance.
Sure. Yeah, it's similar to Commissioner Bookbinder. I'd like to thank the staff for their hard work on this one, and also with everybody's perseverance. So I'm in favour of the resolution.
I also want to thank staff and the rest of the Planning Commission, as well as the public and the applicants. I know we got a lot of community feedback in terms of allowing the variance, and I do support the variance and moving this forward.
I support it as well.
Yeah, anybody want to try a motion?
Sure, I can move to adopt a resolution, reference attachment 1, approving a variance PLN 2019-176.
I'll second.
And that is with the desk item?
With the desk item presented, yes.
Ready? Ready for the roll?
Okay, Corinne, yeah, please.
Okay. Commissioner Bookbinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Ching,
Aye.
Commissioner Koval,
No.
Commissioner Hines,
Aye.
Commissioner Rivlin.
No,
I'm sorry, was that a no?
that was a no.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chair Ostrowski
Aye.
and Chair Cray.
No,
So you got a 4-3.
that item passes 4-3, so it does pass. The Planning Commission action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days, and all done with that one. So thank you. We will move to our final item on the agenda tonight.
Thank you.
It is a public hearing. You're welcome. Thank
Thank you for being in Campbell.
It was quite a while, but thank you very much. A public hearing to consider, our item number 4, public hearing to consider the application of Trojan Storage for a modification PLN 2020-30 of a previously approved conditional use permit PLN 2018-337 to amend the approved self-storage facility hours of operation of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday to 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily on property located at 680 East McLincy Lane. A mitigated negative declaration was previously adopted for the project. And this will tentatively go to the City Council on their meeting of August 18th. And our project planner again is Daniel Fama. Daniel?
Thank you again. Okay, so we do have a conditional use permit modification request for property located at 680 East McGlinchey Avenue. This is a 2-acre site located on McGlincy, west of Union. It borders industrial properties to the north, east, and west, and single-family residences to the south along Regis Drive. It is located in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District, and historically is the site of the Instant Storage Outdoor Cargo Container Storage Facility. Late last year, at its meeting of December 3rd, 2009, with recommendation by the Planning Commission, the City Council approved a conditional use permit to allow construction of a 143,000 square foot self-storage facility by Trojan Storage. Here we have the final revised site plan that shows the plan view of the facility. We have a 2-story portion located here towards the rear that's connected via what effectively is a tunnel that transforms into a 3-story portion of the building that fronts McGlincy along here, along with a narrow single-story portion along the east side. Primary access is along McGlincy. There's also a shared driveway with the adjacent business center property that allows access to a series of parking stalls along this edge. That's also shared with the business center property. Along the rear is a very generous landscaping buffer with a total setback of 65 feet. As part of its approval, the City Council, again with a recommendation by the Planning Commission, as also recommended by staff, approved the facility with hours of operation of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. The applicant had originally proposed 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily, and the application before you is to reconsider those originally proposed hours. The recommendation for the what eventually became the approved hours was based on staff's experience in part with the business center next door that's had some history with complaints regarding noise, but also to just the configuration of the self-storage facility. Even though there is a 65-foot setback, sound, particularly at night or early morning, can be somewhat challenging for neighbors to deal with. And at the edge of this property of the building is a series of roll-up doors that would access self-storage units. And those are the type of noises that can be very challenging for a neighborhood to deal with. As noted in the staff report, the applicant's proposed hours aren't inherently a violation of any city standard or necessarily a bad idea. But at this time, since the facility is still being permitted and of course has not been constructed or yet alone in operation, the request does seem a bit premature. We do understand that the applicant has highlighted that other self-storage facilities do have comparable earlier and later hours. However, as the commission is aware, hours of operation, like other operational aspects, tend to be very site-specific. You can't simply transplant one project to another and expect the same results. And in that regard, staff does believe that the hours are as approved are still appropriate at this time, and recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council deny the proposed modification request. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Any questions for Daniel? I guess, Daniel, I just have. Okay,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead,
Commissioner,
Michael.
please.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Chair. Go ahead, Chair.
Yeah, Daniel, I would just ask, I know it comes up in the report, but what is the history of the noise complaints at the McGlincy Business Center? Was there a lot of complaints, or does that go back many years? Have there been recent complaints?
There haven't been recent complaints. It was some years ago. I believe it was a bakery that was operating in the early morning. It just goes to show that just routine noise, not even noise that trips any significance threshold under CEQA, can just simply be challenging for neighbors to deal with, particularly neighbors who have hours where they may need to get up early in the morning, so they're at sleep earlier, or vice versa, or they have children. Particularly activity that includes just moving of items. I mean, we often see this with restaurants where a lot of noise simply stems from employees taking out trash. So you have just bottles, that type of annoyance, again, is often a challenge when you have residential properties butting up to industrial properties.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Daniel. But Commissioner Hines, do you have a question?
Yeah, Daniel, the picture that you're showing right there, is that a row of roll-up doors? Is that the back that is aligned to the property, the residences?
Correct. So what you're not seeing here, though, is that, I mean, you do have the drive aisle, but beyond this, you also have a very large landscaping strip that's shown here. So this image is showing this back wall along with this drive aisle. That's what you're seeing.
Very good. Thank you. I'll hold my other comments till the discussion.
Any more questions for Daniel? If not, then let's just open the public hearing. I think the applicant is here to address us.
Yes, I am.
Yes, Mr. Henry, thank you.
Thank you. Can I just share my screen?
Sure.
Great. Can you all see that?
Yeah, we got it.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I'll get right to it. I've been in front of a lot of you before. Thank you for having me. Sorry to bother you again. We are requesting the hours be changed. I want to reiterate a few things. The first is I'm not asking for a variance. I'm not asking for late night hours. I'm just asking for comparable hours to my competition. Staff compares us to the McClincy Business Center, and I truly believe this is an unfair comparison. We are very different uses in very different buildings. And I know staff is concerned about the noise for the 5, 6, 7 houses behind us. I fully appreciate that. But we did conduct an independent noise study as part of our CUP application, which really does say not only is it less than significant, but it's really not impactful. And I'd just like to show everyone why. So first, here's the hours of the other storage facilities in the area. None of them have any restrictions. They could go longer if they wanted to. But I'd like to highlight the 2 extra spaces at the top on Sunny Oak and Kirtner. Both of these storage facilities abut to residential. They have a 30-foot setback on Kirtner with no landscape buffer. And I believe there's been no complaints, at least that staff's made me aware of, that these facilities have had. We're a very quiet use, generally speaking, compared to almost anything out there. Currently, the storage container that I've had for 18 months operates from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. And again, since my ownership, and even before, I've not heard any complaints on my property. A big part that we believe of staff's comments really come from the McClincy Business Center. And again, none recently, as Daniel just said, but these are different uses. Mine's low impact, theirs is high impact. I have 46 parking spaces. The ITE study recommended 17. They have 114 parking spaces. Their building is 4 times smaller than mine. But I think the 2 big reasons are my building has 1 owner and an on-site caretaker, 24 hours a day. And so with the McClincy Business Center, you have 26 plus or minus owners and a homeowner association. So when you have a problem, it's not as easy to deal with as it is for me. In our storage facilities, we've got 10 or 12 that abut to residential neighbors, and we don't have those problems with noise. But the biggest reason is my property, and this is why we fought so hard to get out of the CC&Rs, is we are fully fenced. We have controlled access gate. The only gate that works is at the front on McClincy Boulevard. And the McClincy Center has no controlled gates, no cameras, no security systems at all. We are highly securitized. We make sure that our tenants behave. We can control what they're doing. And again, we've asked for reasonable hours. And I think there's such different uses. It's really not fair to us to be compared to them. And I think that the controlled gates is the number one thing. And then lastly, on the independent noise study, they really did say we'd be significantly below 60 decibels for residential areas. I don't know if you can see the picture, but a dishwasher operating in the other room, according to the study, is 50 decibels, which is pretty quiet. Currently, the study found that the neighborhood has a standing decibel level of like 48 to 54 decibels from the US 17 and distant traffic, which we're going to be underneath as it is. So there's 2 sources of noise that the traffic study does, and Daniel definitely hit it. Over here on the screen, this is kind of the overlay. That's the setback. That's the road. These are the 21 doors we're referencing. So those doors are going to have a decibel level, according to this study, of about 46 decibels when the door goes up and when the door goes down. There's only 21 of those doors back there, and the door goes up for a second, and then it goes down for a second. And so when you compare it to the bakery that was having complaints, they were opening their door and they were working and making noise and constantly at it. I'm asking for people to be able to come and grab a box at 8:30 at night, which I don't think is unreasonable. The traffic was the other part of noise, but they said it would be less than 1 decibel of an increase, which they said it's not even measurable. So lastly, I want to point to the ITE study for our property. From 7 to 9 a.m. is peak hours for us. We average about 10 cars per hour on that time frame. From 4 to 6 is the PM peak time, where we get about 17 cars an hour. So 1.5% of our 1,200 units are these 21 doors, which means that on average, every morning on peak hours, you'll get a car every 3 days at these units. For the evening, you'll have 1 car every 2 days. But from 6 to 7 is not peak. It's going to be a very, very quiet. It's typically people who come in right before work just to grab something. People don't move in. Our office won't open till 9 a.m. So it's not like people are going to be able to come rent a unit at 6 a.m. These are for usually existing customers. And then again, the evening, 8 to 9 is way off of peak hours. It's going to be very, very quiet. And lastly, I just want to make a comment about it being premature. If you look at this chart over here, this is the existing setup. We have 42 roll-up doors within the 65-foot setback that currently exists. I have not had one complaint from any of the neighbors about any noise from these roll-up doors going up and down or people parking this close to the building. When we're done building it, there'll be that 30-foot setback of trees and grass plus 35 feet of driveway. And so we've been in operation for 18 months under my ownership and 35 years as a property. So I really don't feel I'm here early. My challenge is that it's tough on business because the general residential users that want to come and rent, they move in. They can't move in from 8 to 9 at night. You know, it takes a couple hours to move in. This is for the people that want to come and grab something, you know, on their way home from work or after dinner, and they're going to run in. And 98% or excuse me, 95% of all of the uses will be inside the building. So once they're inside, they turn their car off and they're gone. And so I think I understand what staff's doing. I really, really do. But it's not reasonable to punish us without facts and findings of at least a study to say, hey, this is going to be really noisy to the neighbors, so we need to really shut it down. And so I am sorry to bother you guys. I know I've come in front of you many, many times. I'm hoping this is the last time. Please let me compete with my neighbors. If I get a complaint from one of the 5 or 6 houses behind us, I will manage it between our on-site manager, our staff, and my corporate team. We would deal with anyone that was a pain in the butt if someone was abusing the facility. Thank you. I appreciate time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henry. Any questions for Mr. Henry there?
Yeah, I had one. Mr. Henry, why didn't you ask for these hours of operation when you originally applied or at the last hearing?
I did, sir. I asked for 6 to 9 the whole time, and city staff did come back and recommend it to you guys. It's not something when I met you the first time that we really responded much to. I've never seen a storage facility in California with by choice 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's really hard to run that way. We didn't really protest much because we didn't think it was going to be really, we were arguing about FAR last time, to be frank, and how far the building should be. And we agreed to take a full story off that. The picture up right now is a 3-story version. We're down to 2 stories in that back part. And so, and then at the city council, it really, again, it became about FAR, and we didn't specifically state, we said we'd like the hours, but there was never a discussion about it. And so when we talked to a few council members, it was just, we had to come back. And so I've always asked for 6 to 9, but no 24-hour access, nothing late night beyond. I don't think 8:30 at night is late.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are those roll-up garage doors, are those on automatic garage door openers, or is it going to be a manual process?
No, they're manual, but obviously they're going to be new. They go up in about a second. They're 8 feet tall. And so they go up very, very quickly. They've got springs, so they'll stay up the whole time. And then the customer will actually have to pull the door down. The doors that I currently have at the property now are typically, 25 to 30 years old and are, I mean, they're Sealand containers, a lot of them. So if you see them on the back of trucks, they have those big metal, like ratcheting gaffs that you have to like rip it and pull it and swing it, and they squeak and they make a bunch of noise. And we haven't had complaints of those. These are really, really quiet, which is why on this page, the study called it that it would generate like 46 decibels because of the setbacks, which at the time, the study didn't have all the landscape we were putting in, which I think is going to further significantly mitigate any noise. And so they are really, really quiet.
Thanks.
Mr. Henry, Terry Hines here. Is there a different type of door that's quieter in the industry? I have to believe that there be some other type of door that'd be quieter, probably more expensive. But have you looked at any consideration on that?
Yeah. So there's thicker doors and there's mechanical doors that you can put on like a garage door. We can make these into, but they don't make them quieter because it's not a complaint. Honestly, of the 20 buildings I've built, this is the first time we've ever really gotten into ours because noise has never really been a factor. A lot of these storage facilities are 24 hours. So the short answer is no. But again, the study compared it to less than like a dishwasher running in the back of your room. So it's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. If there was, at this point, I'd put in 21 of the quietest doors in the history to get the hours because it's important to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Brett, Commissioner Colville here. You are the property owner. Is that correct?
I am.
You are, okay. And how long have you been in the industry of storage facilities?
20 years with 50 buildings in 9 states.
So it sounds like you might know a thing or two about storage facilities, correct?
Yes, sir. And I have 5 in Sacramento, and 2 of them have neighbors on our back walls. And it was a story I told last time where we had an industrial user in 18,000 square feet of that building that we were kicking out. And when we finally kicked him out and replaced it with storage, it's the first time I've ever had a neighbor bring me cookies to the office door. Because his guys were out there at 5:30 in the morning cutting up recycling stuff and constantly causing problems to the apartments behind us. And with the new storage users, they never heard from us again.
But I think that I appreciate the work you put in. There's no better landowner for this type of facility in our city, the city of Campbell, in my opinion, than somebody with that much experience. So thanks for all the work you put into this. And I'm glad you have expertise in this field.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank the applicant for putting together some very helpful evidence. I think this is very, very helpful, the presentation. So thank you for bringing that together.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question for the applicant. Yeah, thank you for the studies and the kind of background that helps build your case. In my mind, I'm curious, how do we work with you? And let's say, there are those 20 units, and someone brings in their big truck every morning at 6 a.m. to grab boxes, or someone turns up their stereo because they just aren't mindful of the hours, not because they're a bad person, it's just their lifestyle. What's your response to that? So the doors may be able to make a story for preventing the sound there. How do we deal with outside cases and fringe cases? I'd hate to be the neighbor right behind, and this one unit just happened to be a guy who likes to make a lot of noise, not because he's a bad person, but just that's his style.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I can't guarantee that that's never going to happen, that, their bad tenant's not going to come and blast his stereo while he's in the back of the unit. I can tell you that if we get a complaint from a neighbor about noise, I have zero desire for it. You have my commitment on this agreement that we would take action against that tenant. We would warn them, and if we could not get them to stop their radio, turn off their car, we would evict them. We would send them a notice either by increasing their rent or by sending them a letter telling them to leave. I will take specifically those 21 doors very, very seriously. There's still laws. I can't just, take someone's stuff and throw them out of my facility, but I will take action in the same way that when we have tenants that, occasionally we get a tenant that, goes into the building and every day pulls out all their crap, puts it in the hallway and sorts through it. Well, it's a pain for all our other customers. And so we just can't allow it. These aren't for business customers who want to do business. It's for people that want to store things.
Right.
So if there's a use that's not there, we will take action. And there's going to be at all of our facilities, not only is there the on-site manager, but there's a big sign right in the middle of the office of both an email and a phone number that comes directly to my office. Any of you could test it. If you go in and call it, an email hits the supervisor, our operations director, and me. And so if our neighbors complain, and this has been one of the more vocal residential areas, we've promised them that we will mitigate those issues.
I'd also like to, would you be open to put, and I know signs don't stop intentional people or bad behavior, but would you be open to putting some signs along the drive? Please be mindful of neighbors, no noise, no loud noise, at least especially on that back run.
100%, no problem at all. I'm happy to put some signs both kind of in that landscape buttage and on near those roll-up doors of, quiet neighbors, turn cars off, turn radios off, no blasting music.
Okay, not that anyone would follow them, but people always bring there's no dog poop.
We still put up no smoking signs, even though they try to smoke.
True. Okay.
So yeah, absolutely.
I have further discussion. I'll hold till the commission discusses, but thank you for your answer.
I have one more question for Brett. Brett, when you extend hours like this, and I say extend very lightly because, as you've pointed out, you just want to be in competition with everybody else in the industry. But one genuine concern from many people, I'm sure, is that, or the stereotype is that there are a certain percentage of units that end up being lived in illegally. In short form answer, how often do you see that in your facilities, and how do you mitigate and respond to that?
Yeah, so two ways. The first is it does happen occasionally that people try to live. We actually have a sensor on every door. It goes right on the outside of the hasp. It's a secondary lock for us. And so every time that door goes up and down, we know. So even if someone breaks in the door and raises it, they know the door went up. So our managers are trained to not only look at hours of when people are supposed to be there, but there's a report that comes out of what dynamics we set it to, that we can say, hey, we want to see a report every night of anybody who's there from 10 o'clock to 4 in the morning. In all of our leases and facility rules, we always put an after hours clause. In this case, it would be 9 p.m. if it's granted to me, where if you're on after hours, it's a $50 fine the first time and it goes up from there. And so for people trying to live there, it's the same concept. 70% of our customers are women. We go out of our way to put on 50 security cameras, really good lights, great security systems. And I can't have people living in my units. It's just bad for business if I was just selfish. So that's something that we have had to mitigate. It is a challenge here and there at storage facilities, but one of the best ways of doing it is actually, putting a really quality storage facility that's frankly not the cheapest in the market, and this definitely won't be, to make sure that we get the residential customers from Campbell that we want.
Is it difficult to remove somebody who decides to try to live in one of these units?
So the challenge, right, is we're allowed to kind of self-evict in storage, but that's usually for non-payment of rent. The auction process, if you've ever seen like Storage Wars or any of that stuff. But if you actually have to terminate someone's lease and they won't go, you have to go to court. And so it can be an unlawful detainer. The difference is they're breaking the law. So typically we do a few things. We'll lock them out of their unit. So if they don't pay their rent after usually 6 or 10 days, we can kind of give them a warning. By 30 days, we can fully lock them out. And one of the avenues we take for people that try to live in their unit is we significantly raise their rent with a 30-day notice. To make it both unaffordable for them to be there, and then giving us the ability that if they stay for more than 30 days, we can just lock them out of their space and keep them from their stuff. And usually at a certain point, we've even bought people out and just said, here's $250, you have to go somewhere else. Because courts are more than $250. So we deal with it, but we are active property managers. No, I don't use a third-party company to manage our assets. We have an internal team. I've got 70 employees right now. in 3 states, and all of our supervisors are employed by us. All of our property managers at the site are employed by us. So we take that really serious, and we make sure that we manage the buildings as appropriate, including not living there.
Perfect responses. Thank you for clarifying, and I appreciate that you're taking the concerns seriously from the residents and your neighbors. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Henry? I guess I'll just say one thing real quick, and one quick question, Mr. Henry. One is, no reason for you to apologize. You did that a couple of times. I know you're being diplomatic. This is what you're supposed to do, and what we're happy to get. And like my fellow commissioners said, it was really a great presentation. Well done. But just to clarify this, because it might be an issue in our discussion, and because you did such a good presentation, so from 6 to 7 a.m. and 8 to 9 p.m., very little use of the facility, but apparently that is enough of a use that not having those hours puts you at a competitive disadvantage to other storage facilities. Is that the case you're making?
The case I'm making is, the answer to that is yes, and here's why. Because most people go to their storage unit a couple of times a year. The average stay on our property is 15 minutes, which means that when somebody wants something, they want the ability on any given day to go get it. And so it's not that we're worried about people moving in at 6 a.m. or a flood of people, but it's the option and the ability that we're giving them. So even though the traffic is so light, some people do come. And some people do work till 6:30 at night and want to go home to their kids, have a meal, and then at 8:15, 8:30 go to their storage unit. And if we don't have that ability, then they're going to potentially go somewhere else where they do have that ability, which is all the other storage facilities and all the storages in Los Gatos and San Jose and everywhere else they could choose. And so it's not as much of a, it's why full service storage fundamentally doesn't work. These companies that will pick up your stuff, store it, and take it back and deliver it whenever you want it, because people want the ability to go get it whenever they want it. And so that's what we're more offering. I'm not really worried about people being there. I'm worried about someone not choosing it because they think they need the option.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Any more questions for Mr. Henry?
Yeah, one I had, it's going to be a little bit in the discussion area, but I want to direct it directly to Mr. Henry. Thank you very much. We've received a letter on the Planning Commission where a neighbor of yours, neighbor of mine, also is concerned about the change in hours and it being a indication, Mr. Henry, that you will come back and ask for backing away from your promises of lighting, landscaping, and enhanced security. I just want to get you on the record that you are committed to the what you had originally proposed to the in your discussions with the neighbors of the promises of lighting, landscaping, and enhanced security.
Yeah, so I have Mr. Jimenez's letter. So one, I want to make it clear that it's definitely not a Trojan horse. We came in with these hours on our CUP application. And so I'm just trying to get back to where we were. But yes, you have my commitment. And I think, I'm not sure what Daniel can attest to, but we have filed our first round of architectural MEPs, civil and structural drawings. Everything that we have told the neighbors that are there are going to be there. The trees, the big landscape setting. I mean, honestly, I think I'm obligated to do it by the CUP grant. But Daniel can say, I haven't come for any other variances. There's nothing else I need. You know, we were disappointed to have our building cut back on the back, but we sucked it up and just turned that off. And this is the only thing we've come back to you for. So yes, there's nothing else on my list. If this gets, I don't know if this is the final decision, but if this were to get approved, there's nothing else that I need to operate my storage very well. And we are very committed to being good neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. I appreciate that. And I appreciate very much you bringing your business to Campbell. I'll make another comment in our discussion.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Now, is there anybody else in the public who wants to address the commission on this item? It doesn't look like there's anybody else out there. So hearing no other speakers, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to our discussion, and we'll continue away. Who? Commissioner Rivlin, I think.
There's a Q&A.
Someone named Timothy Franklin just raised their hand.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, yeah, let's reopen the public hearing real quick. And Mr. Franklin, did you want to address us? I don't see Mr. Franklin. Maybe
They may need to be admitted. Sometimes it gets blocked or something.
can we admit somebody to the meeting? Corinne, during the middle here? Let's
It
see.
appears to be admitted.
It takes a minute, I think, for them to.
Mr. Franklin, you can speak.
Hello?
Oh, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Oh,
please.
great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for your time and thank you for your consideration. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight, first of all, I thank you for Campbell's commitment to a very neighborhood-friendly environment. And I know Campbell, having been a resident now for 20+ years in 2 different locations, both off of Bud Avenue and now off Regis Drive, we've really enjoyed the promoting of that neighborhood environment by Campbell. So thank you for that over the years. You know, one thing we want to highlight, so we're actually, we're very satisfied actually with the recommendation from staff for the previous project being at 2 stories. We think that was a very wise move given the mixed light use, but also we were very pleased with staff's initial recommendation to limit the hours to those more in line with the neighborhood, a neighborhood that is very quiet and is unlike what was stated earlier. There's about on this street about 22 houses, so it's quite actually populous with large 2-story homes. So you know, and highlighting the fact that we're going from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, that is actually adds a significant amount of potential noise and overhead in very early hours and very late hours for living conditions. And none of the other neighbors we have, including the construction in the back by West Valley, nobody starts basically before 7:30 or 8 in that space. And there's been a lot of respect in that area. I know West Valley has spoke on this in the past during application times. And there's been a very mutual agreement in that area. So thank you for staff's time and for the council's time to listen to this objection and a recommendation to keep the current hours that staff has already put out there. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the commission on this item number 4?
I would. Hello?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, this is Mr. Jimenez. So I live on Regis Drive. And
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add my voice to Tim's objections for the hours and my support for staff's recommendation approved by the city council. The neighborhood is really a nice balance of light industrial and residential. And I think we've, as a neighborhood, in concert with the light industrial, have managed to keep that balance. And I think the hours as originally approved by city council would maintain that balance. And so I just hope we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the Planning Commission on item number 4? It doesn't look like anybody else is out there. So at this point, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Who wants to lead us off?
Well, I'd like to make a quick comment, just noting that from my current perspective on the way this is written, we are just making a recommendation here to the council, who will then, of course, finalize their decision as to whether or not to actually approve the modification or not. And I know that the applicant asked or alluded to moments ago that he wasn't sure if this was the final point yet. And so it looks like we have a few options, either to go with staff's recommendation, or on page 4, we do have the alternative as well too from staff as well. And so I just wanted to point that out. This will be a recommendation.
I have a question. I suppose this is actually for staff. I understand the concern that if we allow the standard hours that it will become a nuisance and so forth. So I guess the applicant has assured us that has outlined their process and assured us that they will make sure that their facility is not a nuisance. What is the process for if all of that turns out to be false? Like, what is the worst case if we do approve this? Like,
Sure. So
what is the process for
the conditional use permit has revocation language that would continue to be in effect, so that if there were a series of complaints that staff could not resolve, then we would convene a revocation hearing that would go to the planning commission and then to the city council, where we would need to identify the issues that have been addressed and why we have been unable to resolve them. And then if it was related to noise and or the hours at that point in time, the city council with the planning commission's recommendation could forcibly put the hours back earlier if that ultimately was desired.
Thank you. That answers my question.
A similar line of questioning, how many complaints would staff have to receive to get that process underway?
I believe the language is 3 within a period of 6 months.
Thank you, Daniel.
I guess I'd say, and I know that all the commissioners weren't here for the original discussion on this item. I can't believe it's 2018. It seems like yesterday, but we had quite a discussion there. And you do get a different perspective from that residential street behind the facility. And, you know, it was a great staff report on this. I think the applicant made a great report and we really got a lot of information. So I've been mulling. This is another tough one. We get a lot of tough ones. I've been mulling this, you know, since we got our report and going through it, and it's a toughie. And I do tend to side with the, you know, let's wait a year, let them come back a year down the road, maybe a little premature. I don't know what kind of, you know, problems we might have with noise as is. It's hard to, it's a delicate balance, right? Residential and business. And this really is, you know, just seems like such a reasonable request and really well made. But you know, I'm kind of, we went through a long process to get this project approved, and I would kind of go with the staff's report on this one, and with the knowledge and thought that maybe a year down the road we'll come back again and take it up again, and if there haven't been any complaints, maybe we can give it a try. That's my 2 cents.
For me,
we had Commissioner Ching here with speaking, but his audio was off.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're not missing much. Yeah, I completely get what Chair Cray is saying, and I think it is a contextual thing. And you know, I came into this type of siding with the staff recommendation, and I certainly hear what Mr. Franklin and Mr. Jimenez concerns are here. You know, so saying that, but I guess given the current times, right, business is tough. I would actually lean towards approving it per the applicant, right? Times are tough here. And what type of makes me feel more comfortable with that is the revocation process. The worst case that you get somebody who's disturbing the peace, and you don't want your Saturday morning or Sunday morning disturbed. And if the applicant didn't cure that, then the city does have a process to revoke it, and potentially even, I guess maybe this is a question, reduce the hours reduce the hours back from the 7 o'clock start if it became a problem. I guess that's also an option. So I guess I would go with the applicant's request here, but certainly I do understand the other concerns.
Daniel, if I could ask a question, the the move from the hours, Mr. Henry said it was 6 to 9 that he originally proposed. From staff's position, how do we end up at the hours that are presented by staff?
Well, those were the hours that were recommended and ultimately approved by the city council. It was a judgment call on the staff's part, trying to balance the applicant's desire for flexibility for his customers and also trying to respect the neighbors' concerns. A lot of what we do is it's an art, not quite a science. So there is a lot of subjectivity that goes into this.
My leaning is to adhere to what the city council's already approved. I happen to, I'm down the road a ways, but the McGlincy area is, there's noise, not necessarily from that property, but just the general noise from that light industrial area floats through the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, I also wanted to add that I appreciate the report that staff put together, and I also really appreciate Mr. Henry's assessment and the research that was done there. I don't think this is really an easy decision, actually, but because of all the work that was done over multiple meetings with the input from the neighbors and we went back and forth quite a bit in terms of looking at how do we minimize the impact in on the neighbors. And I know we looked at tiered building structure, which the fire department had concerns about. We couldn't move forward with that. So given that, we have been moving forward with the existing hours, I tend to support the staff's recommendation. And then given some time, then I would suggest get time and an understanding of the use over that period of time. Then we can go back and we can, in the future, look at modifying the hours if that's still relevant.
My perspective is, similar, where we've been down the path, we've had multiple meetings, and the hours were pretty straightforward from both the commission, and I was not in attendance for the city council's meetings, but they approved that. So it feels like that kind of has been set. I do understand the applicant, Mr. Henry's point of view and wanting to have a competitive business offering. And my own perspective, if other commissioners want to explore this with me, would be that perhaps on weekdays, we could meet some kind of understanding that the hours could be changed, but that the weekends are the times when the local residents would want to spend more time, with their families and have that peace and quiet. And then understanding that later on, if there is that, this isn't the term, but good behavior or good, citizen, that then this could be revisited even yet again. So I would be willing to work with fellow commissioners to come up with some language around signage for no stereos or loud engines on that exterior space, and weekday hours that meet our applicants' needs, but that I wouldn't want to change the recommended weekend hours. And I think that's a nice compromise, because most likely those users that the applicant is referencing would have all weekend, maybe one or two of them do work on the weekend, but that they would have 2 days on the weekend, a full day that they may be off. And if they aren't, they have that full day in the week. And then for those that are fringe cases that need that, Thursday evening, we'd be willing to work with them. So, I'm not locked in on a 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., but I'd be happy to talk about 6:30 or 8:30 or 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. as a weekday hour operation. That's my perspective. Otherwise, I do appreciate both staff's and the applicant's presentations.
I appreciate Commissioner Bridland's idea for compromise. And I think if we can't come to a consensus, strong consensus one way or another, I think that may be an excellent way to go. From my perspective, I tend to side with the applicant here. Generally speaking, this seems reasonable. I'm very conscious of the risk of noise. It's a sort of, if you let bits go here and there, and sooner rather than later, you wind up with just a place that's not pleasant to be in. That said, we're trying to manage risk here, right? And the reason this is such a difficult decision is that we're either risking, we're either placing, we risk placing a business at a disadvantage, or we risk requiring the neighbors to make noise complaints and have them have to go through that process. I think the things which make me lean strongly towards siding with the applicant are, one, that there really is a process. This is not, well, if they turn out to be noisy, it's, we're just all going to be stuck with it. Like, noise complaints are taken seriously. If it is a problem, like, this is not, if we make a mistake in that direction, it is not a permanent one. And secondly, that the applicant seems to really have done their diligence, that I believe they said they do not get noise complaints. And that's why I'm on that side of it. In descending order of preference, I would prefer to accept the applicant's request, then Chair Rivlin's proposal, then denying the applicant's request. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I support Commissioner Bookbinder on this, and I guess I've been on the commission, I can't remember, 3 years now. I can't remember any revocation hearings that we've had, so doesn't mean to say my memory is completely correct, right? But it might be an indication that we don't actually have so many of these issues, or the issues that do come up are resolved by the planning staff and where the problem actually is. I think, again, given the current economic circumstances, I'd be leaning in favor of doing this, especially as there's going to be significant landscaping. There's a significant space between landscaping and the building. The building is being reduced in stature. So I do get the concerns, right? But I think we might be being overcautious, and the revocation process is in place, which provides a motivation for the applicant to correctly police, their tenants here, because it's a pain in the butt for them to have to address this.
Commissioner Colville? Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to let everybody speak, and to shorten my conversation points here. I would like to ask a yes or no question to you, Commissioner Ching. You mentioned being here for about 3 years. You mentioned you have not seen this revocation process. Have you, in a yes or no answer, ever seen an applicant come back after a year or an extended period of time and request just this modification to change the hours based on no complaints or current status being good, if you will? Yes or no on that?
May not be a yes or no answer. I can't remember. Right, it's probably the more accurate answer.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to prevent you from speaking. I just wanted to make it more quick there. I just highly doubt that we'd actually see an applicant come back so much later and then again go through this process where they'd meet the same objections as they do right now, which is that they're going to have the same people who are voicing their concerns, and those people will probably be even more firmly planted and have more of a reason to say that they don't want the change. The revocation process is fantastic. We have some commissioners here who have pointed that out as being a great fail-safe. And furthermore, and I think trumping everything, is that this is the type of tenant, landowner that I think, me personally, we want here in Campbell. This is exactly what we need, the type of responsible, hands-on landowner who is willing to work with us and work with the people around him to make sure everyone's happy. I don't get the sense that he's going to try to stab anybody in the back. And I do get a great feeling about the work he's put in, the money he's put in. And in terms of flexibility here, he did lop off an entire level of his structure here. That's a lot of money out of his pocket there that he's saying no to, just to adhere to some of these guidelines and some of the neighborhood requests. And so when we talk about being flexible, I do have to bring that up and then say that he's not trying to switch his hours from something that he he requested differently. It appears he requested these hours, and of course, everything has moved forward. And I highly doubt that he, as an applicant, would bring up in every single meeting between now and then, hey, remember, please, I want hours adjusted. I think he's waited for a great time to do it. This is probably a great time for him to do it. And this is, of course, our job to make this recommendation either way. So I would like to adopt the resolution here, or make a motion to adopt the resolution. This is going to be the alternative on page 4 of our packet here. I want to give this a shot. I would like to make that motion adopting resolution reference 1, attachment 1, recommending that City Council approve modification PLN 2020-30 of a previously approved conditional use permit PLN 2018-337 with the following revisions. Strike evidentiary findings 8 through 13 and revise the concluding language. The Planning Commission recommends that the City Council approves the modification of a conditional use permit by amending condition of approval number 12C to allow facility hours of 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. Now, I would also like to add as well that we would ask the applicant to post signage deterring loud noises in the later hours. I do appreciate Rivlin's recommendation on weekend hours. I wouldn't like to approach that yet. So with those revisions, I'd like to see if I can get a second.
And
I'll second that.
If I may just jump in, there's just a couple of additional changes that need to be made to the findings. And the conclusionary findings, number 1 and 2, you need to strike the word not. And in the third conclusionary finding, you need to add a not after the word will.
So along with the revisions, I would like to include William Seligman's further revisions.
Was the second Commissioner Buckbinder?
Yes.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote then, Corinne?
Certainly. Commissioners Bookbinder,
Aye.
King,
You're on mute.
I've done it again. Sorry. Aye.
okay. Colville,
Aye.
Hines,
No.
You're
Rivlin,
on
You're on
mute,
mute.
Andrew.
No.
Vice Chair Ostrowski,
No.
and Chair Cray.
No, so that motion fails 4-3. Commissioner Rivlin, do you want to try a different motion perhaps?
I'm not sure I'm committed to reading that. Maybe just a brief conversation with the commission just on those hours. Did my fellow colleagues believe that the weekend restrictions were warranted? And the reason I say so is I live in an urban area and I do wake up early on weekdays, but I prefer to have my sleep unimpeded on the weekends. Trash comes on a Wednesday really bothers me. Not that this has any bearing on the applicant's comments, but just thinking noise weekdays, you just have to deal with it in your normal day to day. But the weekend, I would be really furious, and it has happened where there's just loud commotion at 6:30, 7:45 a.m. that I just wanted to get that last minutes of sleep. So I felt it was a reasonable compromise. So I don't know if there's any further discussion or someone.
Yeah, let me just put in my my comment on that. I see that Colville, you had your hand up. I'm sorry, I unmuted first. So what we had in the last discussion with Mr. Henry, we had the adamant aspect of a 3-story in the back. We listened to the neighbors. We built the compromise of 2-story. I really appreciate Mr. Henry coming back again with that compromise and presenting an economically viable business. And I am absolutely in support of being pro-business. I also feel that a matter of compromise with the neighbors is a good approach. I like the compromise that Commissioner Rivlin has proposed of the 6 to 9 on weekdays and 8 to 7 on weekends. Do I have that right, Commissioner Rivlin?
I think it was 7 to 8. Could someone, I'm pulling this up. No,
Yeah,
you're
okay, 7 to 8. I
no,
saw
no,
Mr.
I'm sorry,
Henry.
you're right. Weekend, I think you're right, 8 to 7 on the weekends. That's correct.
So the compromise that we'd like to put out there is, that it's we need to come up with a compromise. These are my neighbors I'm compromising with, but I'm also seeing that it's important to push forward with businesses. This is the same sort of compromise that we made before on the going from 3 to 2. I'd like to.
And this, just a reminder, if I can weigh in, Commissioner Hines, this would only be.
I was done.
Oh, this, as we discussed, this is only a recommendation to City Council. So if they have different perspectives, we have their, their approvals required to codify this. And
Commissioner Colville, I think you wanted to talk?
As lastly, if,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Rivlin.
I'm probably not prepared to reread that motion. So if there are others, I'll leave it to the fellow commissioners, but I can be a fallback.
Commissioner Colville.
I'm sensing, based on, of course, the notes we just received, that I'm going to go ahead and need to redo that motion, which I'll happily do when I'm done speaking. But I did want to touch on your specific concerns, Rivlin, and that you mentioned, of course, that change of hours on the weekends. My only reason for not including that originally was that number one, we do have the revocation process, which seems like a very viable way for us to alter hours if needed based on complaints. And then secondly, and more specific to the hours, and this could be, of course, one person's personal opinion, I would imagine people who are moving from one house to the next, or packing up and moving things into a storage facility, they might be working a regular 9 to 5 during the week, and so for them to access their storage facility, it might be most beneficial for them to do it on the weekends, and they might need more time to do that. And I only say that knowing I've moved many times over my life. I'm sure we all have, and sometimes it takes a lot longer than you expect. This was my original reason to changing those hours. Did you want to speak on that, Rivlin?
No, I appreciate your further feedback. I still think the compromise is the right way. Maybe the hours could adjust additionally, but I think, if you did work a Saturday and a Sunday, you'd have a Monday off, and I'm not predicting anyone's personal schedule. I'm sure there's fringe cases where you work 7 days a week, but I feel that weekend hour needs to be mindful of the neighbors. Discussed.
And are we recommending that the weekday hours are per the applicant's request originally, but the weekend hours are reduced to 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.? Is this correct?
I think it was the other way. I think
it's the other way around.
I think it was 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Saturday and Sunday. I don't think it would be unreasonable that the evening would be 8 p.m., but I don't want to, we don't have to debate minutes. It's your, if you're,
and the current, the current, I guess, recommendation of what we have, just to confirm here, is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. It looks like that is, staff can confirm the current recommendation. Is that correct, staff?
So, yeah, the recommendation is to maintain the hours as approved by the City Council. So that would be 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday.
8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, great. In that case, would anybody else like to speak before I attempt this motion one more time?
Well, I'll just chime in and say I think that was a very valiant compromise effort. Good. It's a good one. It's a good try. I guess my leanings are still the same. I'll just say.
Yeah, and of course, I'm sure Brett Henry can appreciate the fact that we can't converse with him directly at this point, so I can't have him chime in and say whether or not he really likes that compromise or not. But what I hope he sees is that we are doing our best to compromise. And with that, I would like to make a motion to adopt resolution reference attachment 1 recommending City Council approve a modification PLN 2020-30 of a previously approved conditional use permit PLN 2018-337 with the following revisions. We are striking evidentiary findings 8 through 13, and we are revising the concluding language. The Planning Commission recommends that the City Council approve the modification of a conditional use permit by amending condition of approval number 12C to allow facility hours of 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. I would also like to add the revision of or the addition of including signage, of course, across the facility to deter loud noises and late night rambunctious activity. And I would like, of course, to add in the revisions that Bill Seligman has recommended. I can't remember those, but he did, of course, on record state what we needed to do. I'd like to add those in as well and see if we could have a second.
I'll second that motion, and I'll say I'm glad I asked for someone else to make that. You did it very nicely.
Yeah.
Hey, Corinne, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioners Bookbinder,
Aye.
Ching,
Aye.
Colville,
Aye.
Hines,
Aye.
Rivlin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ostrowski,
Aye.
and Chair Cray.
No.
Okay.
And that motion passes, and the item will probably come up at the, what did we say, the August 18th, tentatively scheduled for the City Council meeting of August 18th. And with that, our last item is to ask Community Development Director Kermoyan if he has a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I just took a look at the report and I don't think there's really anything to bring to light, but if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
I have a question. At the last meeting, I asked about a joint session between the Planning Commission and the City Council. I mailed the city manager, but I have not heard anything back. What's the next step here?
I can certainly ask him to respond to you. I don't know why he didn't respond, but I know in the past you've had some issues with emailing staff, but as always, I've always followed up, and I'll do so again, Commissioner Bookbinder.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, I did find in my records that Director Kermoyan CC'd us when he originally emailed the city manager. That was February, I think it was February 13th or 18th. I forget the date, but it was quite a while ago. But certain things came up in the meantime, I understand, but just noting that.
And I'd like to ask.
No, please.
No, I'll be quick. I just wanted to ask for confirmation. I think it got lost in the coronavirus lack of meetings for a while. But digging through the records, I found, and this is directed toward you, Mr. Kermoyan, that it looks like the Dollinger property in Dell Avenue, that project with some conditions has been approved and passed by City Council, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And again, a quick question to Director Kermoyan. On the City Council item B, the planned 30-day trial closure or closure of the main street in the downtown. Is there any indication when that might happen?
So we are coordinating that right now. We purchased these barricades, if you will. They're essentially big orange vats that you fill with water. They're very difficult to move, and if we're going to have members of the public dining on a public street, we need to be able to protect them. So although we have them ordered, we still need to coordinate with county fire with their placement, because we need to balance protecting the public with the fire department's ability to serve the buildings. Once we can figure out the logistics, then we'll go ahead and install them. We are going to inform the downtown merchants, and I've already seen the write-up explaining that this is to come. So please prepare. And that means to coordinate any acquisition of tables and chairs that can easily be set up and taken down. So we're certainly trying to move as quickly as possible, but we have to do it in a coordinated manner.
Okay, thank you. I had a couple of residents ask me on that one.
Any other questions, comments? Well, with that, let's end this meeting. Campbell Planning Commission is adjourned until our next meeting, which will be July 28th. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Thank you.